The New Orleans Saints just made a huge, shocking move by releasing second-year wide receiver A.T. Perry. What could this possibly mean? Does this have anything to do with the Davante Adams trade rumors that have surfaced the NFL this past week? And given the fact that the Saints are at the top of his wish list, could this releasing have anything to do with Davante Adams? And on top of that, the Saints offense has a huge problem. And no, it's not about the offensive line, even though the offensive line is still a problem. What does all of this mean? Let's break it down. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports. Download the Fantasy Underdog app, find some players you're interested in, maybe on your favorite team or your favorite players. Doesn't have to be on your team either, it could be on other teams as well. Find their stats and you can pick higher or lower. And you can pick up to 5 players/picks. Make some picks on Underdog Fantasy and use my code CASH for more bonus offers. And if you want to help support me and the channel in any other ways, you can just click my link tree down in the description. There's lots of options for you there as well. Alright, thanks for tuning in. Let's get back to the video. So the Saints just released and waived second-year wide receiver A.T. Perry, who, to be honest, has been a huge disappointment this season. At the end of the 2023 season, there's no question A.T. Perry had a strong finish and really showcased some potential in what he could do and possibly be in the NFL. He had some really nice catches deep down the sideline, made some nice tough catches on the outside, had some nice deep touchdowns. He did look like there was some potential there. But once we started getting into training camp and OTAs and the preseason, there was something off about A.T. Perry. He wasn't flashing as much as one would have hoped. And Dennis Allen even called him out for just being fine as opposed to showing out and making big plays during camp the same way other guys were making plays like Mason Tipton and Cedric Wilson and other players. Now, it was encouraging to see A.T. Perry had a pretty solid preseason. I'm pretty sure he led the entire league in the preseason in receiving yards. However, though, that doesn't mean he didn't have consistency. He did have a few drops in the preseason. There are some bad penalties. Obviously, the blocking is a huge thing when it comes to this scheme and this offense. So being a wide receiver under this system with Klint Kubiak, it's more than just catching the ball and running routes. It's, can you block? Can you do the right assignments? How consistent are you? Can you be reliable and trusted? And the coaching staff clearly does not trust and didn't trust A.T. Perry, which is why he was just released. But he ended up making the team, but when it came to the regular season, A.T. Perry did not see any playing time. Week 1, it was a hand issue. Week 2, he was a healthy inactive. Week 3, he was sick/a healthy inactive. And this past week, he had a hamstring injury. There is just a lot going on with A.T. Perry, and I'm sure the Saints were just frustrated with the lack of productivity and his development in this new system and his unavailability to play in these games. And I don't think this is a coaching issue like last season when Pete Carmichael had him inactive. We trust this coaching staff to at least have the right players on the field. So I don't think this is a coaching staff doesn't think A.T. Perry is good. It's A.T. Perry isn't doing something. And it's even gotten to a point where Mason Tipton, a guy who didn't even play in the preseason, is getting snaps and reps over A.T. Perry, a guy who has proven more so than Mason Tipton. Which goes to show you where this team feels A.T. Perry was in terms of his availability and development. Now, I would like to remind a lot of you who were in my comments all offseason were saying A.T. Perry's better than Michael Thomas. He's going to be the next Michael Thomas. Some were even saying he's going to be the #1 guy who's better than Olave and Shaheed. Those aged like milk. And some of you may not like my opinions, and I'm a bit more negative about the team. But a lot of the stuff I've been saying back in March and over the past few months has been becoming true now. So all I'm going to say is, I told you. And that's nothing against A.T. Perry, it's just a lot of people overreacted to a small sample size. Kind of like how a lot of people overreacted to Marquez Callaway's good preseason in 2021. Like, yeah, it looked good, but guess what? It's a small sample size. And once you get more exposure and this coaching staff really tries to put more on you, they can't be relied on. Now, could A.T. Perry being waived have anything to do with the Davante Adams trade rumors? A.T. Perry is a receiver. He does wear number 17. This opens up a roster spot, and the Saints are top contenders to get Davante Adams. Do the two have any correlation? And I will say this, I 100% doubt that the Saints would release A.T. Perry just because he wears 17 and Davante Adams would want that number. I believe they released A.T. Perry because he wasn't doing something that they were asking of him. Plus, they would probably just put A.T. Perry on the practice squad if they were getting Adams, and they wouldn't do it beforehand. They'd probably do it after they trade for Adams. So I really don't think that there's really any correlation between the Adams trade rumors and the A.T. Perry getting released news. But at the same time, I'm just going off of my gut and just my logic. It could be true that the Saints were opening up space for Davante Adams, but also since A.T. Perry hasn't played a game this season, he could change his number to like number 15, then Adams could get 17. Which is why I think that there's no correlation between A.T. Perry getting released and Davante Adams trade rumors. And even today, Davante Adams posted to his story a photo of Edgar Allan Poe, and the first thing you look up when you look that guy up is the Raven. And yeah, the Saints obviously are not the Ravens. Like I mentioned earlier though, it is pretty weird that they didn't just put A.T. Perry on the practice squad. Them releasing him might just mean that he wasn't doing what the coaches were asking him to do in terms of blocking, learning the playbook, being available, what is his health looking like. And also too, the Saints might be getting Kendre Miller back from injured reserve sometime soon. Maybe they're opening up a roster spot to activate Kendre Miller onto the active roster, and then maybe they'll bring A.T. Perry back to the practice squad at some point. I could see that happening. I just find it weird, like you could just put him on the practice squad now and take someone off, but hey, I don't know. They just signed another receiver to the practice squad a few days ago. Things are just not looking good for A.T. Perry, but I'm sure he'll find another home on another team very fast. Because he does have talent, he does have potential, maybe it just wasn't working with what the Saints system and scheme were wanting. And what would you know, just as I'm recording, I checked my phone, luckily I did, and the Saints signed center Connor McGovern off the Jets practice squad to the active roster, which is probably why they released A.T. Perry. And the Saints signing a center off the Jets practice squad likely means that there are more injuries to the offensive line. Eric McCoy's out, Ruiz is out, Shane Lemieux missed practice yesterday, now Lucas Patrick is missing practice today. They are banged up on the offensive line, so losing out on A.T. Perry, a guy who couldn't beat out a guy who didn't play in the preseason to sign a center, I'm okay with it. It's just disappointing that a guy like A.T. Perry couldn't find a way onto the field when the Saints are missing another playmaker. And this brings me to my next topic of the Saints offense, and the fact that they have a big problem at the skill position groups. This was something I was talking about all offseason, dating back to like February and March. The Saints need a big physical wide receiver. They need a guy to go over the middle and make plays. And as we've seen through the first 4 weeks, the Saints are desperately missing that kind of player. And coincidentally, a lot of you thought A.T. Perry was going to be that guy, and I tried telling you all, A.T. Perry only had 1 catch between the numbers that was contested last season. Only 1 catch in between the numbers. All of his plays were outside and deep, not short and over the middle. Which is why I thought the Saints should have drafted Adonai Mitchell, or could have possibly drafted Brock Bowers, the tight end group. Man, Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, they do not look good. Juwan Johnson needs to stop making TikToks and start making plays, because what is going on with him? Foster Moreau, good blocker, good, number 2 tight end option, but not a good starter. I mean, the Saints could have used a guy like Michael Thomas's type of style versus the Eagles. That's a game where Derek Carr's under pressure, no one's open, so you need to find a guy who's open without actually being open, which is typically like a Michael Thomas type player. Just throw it in their vicinity and they'll make those tough catches, and the Saints don't have one of those players. Now, props to Chris Olave. You could definitely tell he's taking his game up a notch. He's making tough catches, getting yards after the catch. But guess what? They're not giving him targets. So the Saints won't target their best player, who has obviously improved his game 1,000%. And they're also missing a physical pass catcher who can do stuff over the middle. It's just become very clear through these first 4 weeks that the Saints are missing another weapon on offense. Because outside of Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, only 2 wide receivers for the Saints have caught a pass in Cedric Wilson and Mason Tipton, which have combined for 5 catches on 6 targets for 26 yards and 0 touchdowns. This is not good. And the Saints know that they need another playmaker because post-game after the Falcons game, Dennis Allen said we need to find some other guys that can make plays for us other than Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, and Rashid Shaheed. So the Saints know that they need to find another player who can make plays on this offense. But who will it be? Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson, Bub Means. And what makes this worse is while the Saints are looking for another playmaker, A.T. Perry simply can't get on the field. He can't even stay on the team. He was just released. Despite the Saints are currently looking for another weapon to be utilized in the passing game. That really tells you what they think of A.T. Perry and what he was not doing during practice in terms of blocking, learning the playbook, and doing the right assignments. It's not the coaching staff for being dumb. It's A.T. Perry for not doing what he needs to do. But what would you know, just a day or two after Dennis Allen said this, Davante Adams requests a trade from the Raiders and has the Saints at the top of his wish list. Now, I have a whole video or 2 videos breaking down the whole situation, talking about it, so I'm not going to re-say what I've already mentioned. So if you want more details and my opinions and stuff like that, just go check those 2 videos out. But then just a few days after Dennis Allen said they're looking for another playmaker, he completely changes his mind and says that he's happy with the receiver room, but obviously they're open to making moves to add another good quality player to the team. And in this case, I think he's talking about Davante Adams. If the right opportunity presents itself, they're willing to make the room. But I'm confused. Are you happy with the receiver room or are you not happy with the receiver room? Because just a few days ago, you said that you need to find another playmaker. So which one is it? You're happy with your playmakers or you want to find one more playmaker? Now, speaking of which, the Saints could be getting a huge piece to the team and another playmaker back very soon, and some reinforcement to the skill position group, as running back Kendre Miller is coming back from his hamstring injury, and he started practicing on Thursday in preparation for the Chiefs game. Now, I don't know if he'll play in the Chiefs game because he hasn't had a full practice since May, and he might not know the playbook. He might have a little bit of rust. But if Kendre Miller can stay healthy, I think this dude could be one of the most talented players on this roster. He has the potential and talent to open up the offense in a whole nother way, take carries and touches away from Alvin Kamara and not have him get beat up as much. But the only issue is he needs to stay healthy, find a way to stay healthy, and prove that he is a good player, not only to us, but specifically Dennis Allen. Over the summer, Dennis Allen had a lot of criticism of Kendre Miller and his inability to stay healthy and prove that he's worth keeping on the roster. Dennis Allen said that he has to find a way to stay healthy or they might cut him. They ended up putting him on IR, and now here we are. He's back. It's week 5. I don't know if he'll be playing, but I think Kendre Miller could be a game changer, and if he stays healthy, I could see us winning more games if Kendre Miller can find a way to stay on the field. We even have a whole video on Dennis Allen calling out Kendre Miller, even A.T. Perry too. Dennis Allen wasn't holding back on them. And look where we are now. One of them just got cut and another one is now starting to return. And even now, Dennis Allen still will not let up on Kendre Miller. When he was asked on Monday whether or not he thinks Miller could contribute to being a playmaker, he just said, I don't know, we'll see. He just doesn't want to give him his props or any positive reinforcement. And I agree with it. Kendre Miller has to earn it.
What's your anticipation for how much Kendre Miller might be able to contribute to that after all the time?
I don't know. We'll see.
Is he going to come off IR this week?
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Let me know what you make of the news that A.T. Perry was released and the fact that the Saints might be missing a playmaker on offense. Subscribe to my channel, Cash Sports, for more daily NFL content. Have a good one. Peace.